administration is making America the best place in the world to do business. The White House has pushed through tax cuts, deregulation, and secured trillions of dollars of investments in the United States. The president says his tariff agenda will spark a manufacturing boom.
I say it's the golden age of America. When these factories and plants open up by the thousands, they're coming from Germany, they're coming from Japan, they're coming from Canada. Many factories are coming in because they don't want to pay tariffs. We have an age that's coming up, the likes of which I don't think this country has never seen.
Okay, so we were talking about in the last hour some of the things that we're expecting next year: growth, the big beautiful law, AI to continue to prosper and hold the market up. So it seems like the runway has been set for a pretty good year. The tariff issue has been a sticky one. The inflation never materialized. That the Democrats and somebody like Jerome Powell were saying the inflation's coming, not quite to the extent that they were hoping that it would come. In fact, some are saying that they expect to see inflation go down, and Powell's biggest problem right now is the labor market. But we're still waiting on the Supreme Court to decide on this issue, whether constitutionally he was allowed to do what he did with IEEPA or not. We know that he's got a second route to go if he doesn't get the ruling from the Supreme Court, but that it takes longer. Long story short, I think businesses and markets just want certainty on this issue, and it's sort of got to be put to bed somehow.
It really
Before the gentleman say what he needs to say, make sure you hit the like button on your way in. And we're going to hear about these changes that must happen in 2026. And I'm going to let them talk. And while they talk, I'm going to let y'all know what's up. All right, let's go.
should. And look, the Supreme Court, we hope, will come up with a solution or an answer on this, a ruling on this soon. It could be tomorrow, but they could wait all the way until end of June. This could drag on for 6 months. I hope that they don't do that. I hope they have the sense to know that we need an answer one way or the other. But who knows when that could happen. As far as the tax cuts go, we're all looking for the one big, beautiful tax cut to kick in. I was under the impression when it passed that it was going to be effective immediately or effective to January 20th when President Trump was sworn in, or even January 1st, beginning of this year. It seems like most of the benefit will come in January 1 of next year. So we're waiting for most of that to kick in. And that may explain why this economy is a bit sluggish, is that people are waiting for the tax cuts.
It would come in January 1 next year, but it would be retroactive because they signed that bill July 4th.
Correct.
It would be retroactive until the beginning of last year.
Right, it might do that, but that still means the benefit will kick in next year.
Correct.
People wouldn't be enjoying it quite yet. So anyway, that may explain why things are slower than we'd like. You know, if you hear that there's a sale, you know, at a shoe store next week, you're going to go next week, you're not going to go today. So I think similarly, people may be delaying economic activity until 2026 rather than doing 2025. Maybe
That all depends also of what's going to happen with the other shutdown, because I do believe it's going to be another shutdown. I'm just trying to see what they're saying, and I'm being optimistic. At the same time, I'm being realistic too. I think it's going to be another shutdown in January. I just don't see anything growing like they saying this. I don't see it right now. However, I'm going to let them continue to talk. I'm going to tell you what's going to go on in 2026. Let me let this finish.
maybe that's why we're not seeing the labor market quite the way we want. Growth is there, but I don't think it's anywhere as robust as people would like to see.
Okay, and what he's talking about in that soundbite, Brian, is people, companies moving production from overseas, bringing manufacturing facilities onshore because they don't want to pay the tariffs, and because in the big beautiful law, they're incentivized tax-wise to manufacture here. And so it makes a lot of sense for companies. That takes a while to kick in, though, before they can set up shop and actually run a manufacturing facility. So
the question is, where they're going to run these manufacturing facilities? Because the only places I could think of is the Midwest. Are people going to move to the Midwest in droves? Are people going to move to the West Coast in droves? Are people going to move to the Northeast? And the Northeast I'm talking about is not your New York City, Massachusetts, or New Jersey. I'm talking about other states in the Northeast. I'm not talking about the usuals, because the other places have more space for the most part to bring in. The question is, if the people are going to move back up to the Northeast, to the Midwest, and the West Coast, can you convince them to move to those places? Because that's where the majority of the manufactured places is at. You know, it's not too much in the South like it is up there. So I'm interested to see what they have to say about this. Let's continue.
You know, he's painting a very rosy picture. This is his policy. I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I think there are a lot of great things that he's done that will kick in next year. But is this tariff piece of it, you know, being accurately portrayed?
Well, the cause is tough to figure out, okay? I actually think it's the big, beautiful bill that's done more. So on this tax stuff, the business taxes, the enhanced deductions for business investment actually were retroactive in the bill. And what's been interesting, so you talk about a sluggish economy, maybe on the hiring side, yes, but not on the growth side. I mean, it's been 3-4% over the past couple quarters now, and it looks like that may be the case to some degree going forward. So you got a lot of growth, and if you look at GDP over the last couple quarters, usually business fixed investments about 15% of GDP. It's been running at 25%.
Whoa.
Okay.
Dramatic.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I do think you are getting this investment boom. Now, is it coming from the trillions of overseas I don't know the answer to that. But you are getting a ton of investment. It's a bigger part of our GDP, which is good. It hasn't translated into jobs yet, but I do think it sets up pretty well for 2026. When you add that into what I think the consumer might be able to do next year when individual income tax, after-tax earnings go up. So, is it the what does he say, 21 trillion of overseas investment? I don't know about that number. But I do think it's very possible 2026 could be the boomy kind of year he's talking about. The question is, politically, does that come in time? And
Right.
do people get that message soon enough to say we want to stick with what the president's doing or bring Democrats back in the House?
Well, speak.
Now that's why I wanted to talk about, because if they're going to have to prove to the people that it's worth bringing back the Republicans back in office. Otherwise, the Ibaracis is going to take over in the summertime. All right, so let's see what they say.
Speaking of time, I don't think that anybody was really could anticipate that the Supreme Court was going to take this issue up, that IEEPA was going to be challenged in the way that it was. So when the president comes out and unveils his whole tariff plan, some companies do shift and decide we're going to take advantage of that and we're going to come onshore manufacturing in the United States. In other words, they wouldn't wait to see if the tariffs were struck down because they wouldn't know. So does that, even if the tariffs are struck down, is that enough that really it was in some ways, Dagan, a win for him?
It's not a win, whether you like the tariffs or not. It's not a win if the Supreme Court strikes these down fiscally because of where we are in terms of borrowing. The U.S. needs this money. So far in the first, I think, 11, it's about $250 billion in tariff revenue so far this year. And the president talks about tariffs as if it's some money pouring out of a magic money machine. that it's gonna cover everything. And so far we have a farmer bailout, borrowed money. $1,000 baby checks, borrowed money. We're gonna be mailing people checks next year from the tariff revenue.
Right.
That would be borrowed money.
Is she lying? It's the question I have for y'all. Is she lying? Let's go.
So all of this money is actually inflationary. We're borrowing more money. And let's talk about the Obamacare super subsidy extensions, because we know, based on Congress being feckless and loserly, and I do mean the right and the left and the middle, they will extend those super subsidies, and that is pure inflation. That is pure subsidy. That gives people, rich families who don't need this money to go out and eat and go on trips. And that's also borrowed money. So all of that is and you can argue what, inflation is a monetary issue and not a fiscal one. Well, the more we borrow as a nation, the more stimulus you get from in terms of monetary policy, and you see the new bond buying that's going on the Federal Reserve side. So they're inextricably linked at this point. So I think that it's going to be bad for longer term interest rates if and when the Supreme Court, if they rule that these tariffs aren't constitutional.
So then do you think if that plays out the way Dagan described, Taylor, that part of the reason the president is hammering these low interest rates, Jerome Powell, he's going to put his own Fed chair in, and the expectation is that rates will come down substantially. Is he trying to equalize somehow there?
Did you see what Kevin Hassett said? That
Yes.
that the president has a good view, opinion, awareness about where interest rates would be, but ultimately, if it were him, he would be independent and decide on his own where interest rates would be. I just thought that was fun, and I'll just throw that in there.
He also didn't he kind of fall down into like second place? Yeah, that might have Fed rankings.
Bye-bye,
I don't know if those two are tied together.
I think
Bye.
he's trying not to freak out the bond market.
Well, I agree with that. Yeah.
So to answer your question, Jackie, one note I read that I loved is next year for the economy, it's going to be more dessert than veggies because of all the liquidity that we've talked about. Dessert being actually a good thing, not the maha thing where I'd prefer veggies. After a brief window of weakness and growth, we will see more dessert versus vegetables in terms of economic policy, which will lead to an acceleration of growth. Tariff policy uncertainty will fade and the positive effects from the BBB will start to work their way through the economy. So that certainly is one view. You started this segment talking about tariffs, and I think giving ourselves now almost a year of reflection or looking back as we sort of a year ago thought the tariffs would come and in what form. We think about what we put this economy through, and I think a lot of people at this point would maybe agree that we wanted the high precision manufacturing.
Okay, so this is what the tariff revenue has brought back to America: 29.5 billion in August. In September, 7 billion. October, 31.4 billion. November, 30.8 billion. I don't know what we're going to see in December until the end of the year. Anyway, let's go.
When he talks about this manufacturing boom, I'll never forget that quote that I've shared on TV often where someone came up to me and said, I can't believe you blew up your economy because you wanted to build like a microwave in this country. That wasn't the point. A lot of for people, the point was a big semiconductor fab or a high precision robotic manufacturing. It wasn't to build Nike sneakers or cheap socks, right? And so I think the market has had time to sift through the difference in that, where it wasn't always a $5,000 iPhone because we needed to be made in America. It was what high robotic semiconductor fab, right, or whatever. And so I think that is the tariff policy that people are working their ways through. And I think people can get on board with that, especially in middle America when they've seen many of their towns become manufacturing deserts and there aren't good jobs.
Yeah, a lot of the towns and cities are becoming deserts, and it's going to be more interesting of that.
How do you differentiate between that versus originally on April when we thought it was like to make socks, right? And no one really knew the plan. And so I think the market has the time to digest the difference in that.
Yeah, and there's a national security undertone to what you're talking about, too. So I do think the president is considering those things. We'll have more time to talk about it.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it about that, y'all. I mean, it will be interesting to see how this goes. I mean, let me see. Let me do something here. I'm trying to find something for y'all. Hold on one second. Let me make sure. I get this situated. Okay, I got it ready. I want you to look at this because this might be a growing trend too. This might be a growing trend. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's do this. All right, y'all, here we go. Let's get right to it. Listen to this.
Part of the reason why a lot of people just do stuff is just so they can post it on their story to show people that they did it. And I know I'm probably preaching to the choir to most of you that have already gone through this or deactivated your Instagram. But after long enough, you slowly start to realize like how performative that app really is. And I've grown out of that. And also like how much your real friends and family like really don't fit you like that.
Here are all the reasons that I think social media has completely ruined our lives, whether we realize it or not. Number one, everyone's trying to look the exact same.
Yeah, there are people that's trying to look like you and do the same thing you're doing. It's becoming redundant for the most part. It has become redundant, you know, kind of like people doesn't have their own unique way. It's only a few far between. So that's all. I just wanted to show you something real quick. I'm not going to be too long with the social media thing. I just wanted y'all to hear that real quickly. Let me get to this situation. Hold on. Let me see if I can find something else I need to find. I think that's pretty much about it. There's nothing else going on. Let's see. Let's do this. Okay, let me do this real quick. Let me see here. Okay. Let's do this. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, so let's get to this real quickly. Let's go here. I find this very interesting. We need to listen to this because this is very interesting that this came on my screen. And I want to talk about it. Because the people are speaking, the people are talking. I'm going to let the people talk. All right. Here we go. Let's get right to it.
Something changed in Florida in 2025, quietly, quickly, and without headlines. For the first time in decades, more people began leaving major Florida cities than moving into them, not because of politics, because the math stopped working. Insurance costs exploded, property taxes surged, HOA fees ballooned, rent ran far ahead of wages. The affordability model Florida depended on for decades broke, and it broke fast. People didn't panic. They calculated. These weren't cities people wanted to leave. They were cities people loved, until staying became financially irrational, starting with...
And that is true. And that is true. That is the truth. People didn't want to leave because it's one of the best environments in the world. At the same time, when things are going up and you cannot afford to be in certain environments, certain situations, yeah, you got to leave. I'm all for it because it doesn't matter where you at. If you can't afford to...
Number 10, we're counting...
If you can't afford to live there, you got to go. Yeah, I'm agreeing with it.
Down the Florida cities losing residents the fastest in 2025. And when we reach number 1, it becomes clear this isn't a local problem, a coastal issue, or a temporary spike. It's a structural shift. Number 10, West Palm Beach. West Palm Beach was never supposed to be an exit city. It was the compromise. Close to Miami's jobs, close to the coast, but historically cheaper, calmer, and more attainable. For years, people moved here when Palm Beach and Miami priced them out. That balance broke in 2025. West Palm Beach recorded net outmigration of roughly 3,500 residents.
And that's going to continue to go up going into January. Let's go.
Not retirees aging out, working households leaving. The cost shift was abrupt. Median rent climbed above $2,600 for a 2-bedroom apartment. In 2020, that same unit rented for under $1,800. Property insurance surged past $6,000 annually for many.
That's a whole lot. That is a whole lot to deal with. Let's continue.
Homeowners. Condo owners faced a double hit, higher insurance and rapidly rising HOA fees as associations scrambled to cover maintenance, reserves, and compliance costs. For a household earning West Palm Beach's median income of $63,000, housing costs now consume more than 45% of take-home pay. 5 years ago, that figure sat just under 30%. That difference isn't inconvenience, it's instability. Homeownership didn't offer relief. Median home prices pushed past $450,000. With current interest rates, insurance, and taxes, monthly housing costs easily exceed $3,500. For middle-income professionals, teachers, healthcare workers, office staff, the math no longer worked. So people left. Many relocated north within Florida at first, then farther, Georgia, North Carolina, Tennessee, places where housing costs tracked wages more closely and
Yeah, Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee is starting to see more people moving there. Okay, let's continue.
insurance premiums didn't feel like a second mortgage. West Palm Beach isn't collapsing. The city remains desirable. Investors continue to buy. Higher income transplants continue to arrive. But the people who built their lives here for practical reasons, affordability, proximity, balance, are quietly exiting. What West Palm Beach represents is an early warning. A city that didn't fail economically, but crossed an affordability threshold faster than its residents could adapt. And if a city like this is already losing people, the deeper, more structural problems become impossible to ignore. Number 9, Cape Coral.
Wow.
Cape Coral's story is simple and brutal. Hurricane Ian. Not the storm itself, but what came after. Insurance companies fled Florida. The ones that stayed tripled premiums. Cape Coral homeowners watched their annual insurance costs go from $4,000 to $12,000 in 2 years.
There it is. That's why it's an exodus going on. Let me get to the next one. Cape Coral. Okay, Lakeland. Let's hear what they got to say about Lakeland.
Lakeland was the escape valve. When Orlando and Tampa became unaffordable, people moved to Lakeland, close enough to commute, cheap enough to buy. That was the theory. But when everyone runs to the same escape valve, it stops being an escape. Lakeland's median home price jumped from $210,000 in 2020 to $375,000 by late 2025.
Oh man, that's crazy. Let me go to the next one. I'm fast forwarding it, y'all, because I'm not trying to be on this thing. It's 30 minutes. I'm not trying to be on it too long. He's talking about Lakeland. Let me see. Jeez. What's the next one at? Let me see.
That figure was $240,000. Wages for the professional class, teachers, nurses, accountants, tech workers, increased maybe 30% in that same window. Housing more than doubled. That gap is the crisis. Let's make this concrete. A nurse in Fort Lauderdale earns roughly $75,000 annually. A teacher, $58,000. That nurse wants to buy a median-priced home. Housing math. Median home price reached $360,000. Median household income is $61,000. Here for low operating costs now face higher recruiting costs, higher turnover, constant training cycles, and pervasive employee dissatisfaction that affects productivity. What attracted businesses is now repelling workers. That's a sustainability crisis that threatens Jacksonville's entire economic development model. You can offer business.
Jacksonville's in the mix. Yep. One of the most beautiful places is in the mix. It's starting to see a crisis of people leaving Jacksonville. All right, let's go.
Businesses low taxes, but if their employees can't afford to live in your city, those businesses will eventually question the value proposition. And if Jacksonville's corporate appeal is cracking under housing pressure, number 4 exposes what happens when an entire economy is built on service workers who can't afford to live anywhere near where they work.
And that is Orlando. There it is. And this is true. Listen to this.
Number 4, Orlando. Orlando's economy runs on service workers, tourism, hospitality, entertainment, food service. Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, and thousands of hotels, restaurants, and attractions depend on people willing to work for $35,000 to $50,000 annually. The entire economic engine requires a large workforce earning wages that were never designed to be high. But here's the crisis. Those workers can't afford to live in Orlando anymore. Median rent for a 2-bedroom apartment in Orlando hit $2,100 in 2025. Someone earning $40,000 as a hotel worker or restaurant server takes home maybe $2,900 monthly after taxes.
Yep, that's true. No lies told. Let's continue.
Spending $2,100 on rent means $800 left for everything else. Transportation, food, utilities, healthcare, childcare. It's mathematically impossible to sustain, so they move farther out. Kissimmee, Sanford, Claremont, even Davenport. Commutes stretch to 45 minutes, an hour, 90 minutes each way. That adds transportation costs. Gas averaging $2.50 weekly, car maintenance, insurance, time lost that could be spent with family or working second jobs.
Yep. Yeah, he's speaking the real. Let's go.
The poverty trap disguised as employment. Orlando lost 6,200 residents in 2025. Most were service sector workers, the exact people theme parks and hotels need to function. They left for Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, places where 40.
Yeah, there's truth to that. There's truth to that. He's not lying.
40,000 still buys a life, where rent doesn't consume 70% of income. We're building
Wow, he said the magic word, 70% of income. I say 80% goes to income, to your bills and stuff. He's saying 70%. Okay, we close. Let's go.
any financial stability remains possible. What happens when your workforce disappears? Labor shortages that reduce operating hours, service quality declines that hurt guest experiences, businesses struggling to staff adequately, forcing remaining workers into longer shifts, accelerating burnout and turnover. The entire economic model becomes fragile. And it's not just low-wage workers. Teachers in Orlando start around $47,000. Nurses, $68,000. Even they are severely cost-burdened. A teacher paying $2,100 in rent spends 55% of take-home on housing. Their one-car break.
Ah, damn. He went above. Ooh, 55%. Ooh, okay.
Breakdown, one medical bill, one unexpected expense from financial crisis. They're professionals living paycheck to paycheck despite full-time employment in essential fields. Orlando presents a stark paradox. It's one of America's top tourist destinations, generating billions annually in revenue. But the people who make that economy run can't afford to participate in it as anything other than workers.
That goes for most. That goes for a lot of places. He's right though. He's correct. Let's go.
Serve visitors staying in hotels they couldn't afford to book. They work at theme parks they can't afford to visit with their own families. They prepare food they can barely afford to buy. When your economic engine depends on people you're pricing out, the engine eventually fails. Orlando's crisis isn't about tourism declining. Tourism is fine. The crisis is about the impossible, unsustainable math of being a service worker in a city that no longer values service workers enough to let them live there with dignity. The top 3 cities prove this crisis is systemic and complete. Number 3 is next. Number 3, Tampa.
Yep.
Tampa was Florida's fastest growing major metro for years. Tech jobs relocating from California, financial services expanding, remote workers choosing Tampa for lifestyle and claimed cost savings. From 2018 to 2022, Tampa was the success story, the city everyone pointed to as proof Florida's growth was sustainable and broadly beneficial.
Okay, so we know it's going to go to Miami. I'm just waiting for Miami. Let's get to Miami already because I want to see what it's going to say about Miami. We know that Miami's number 1.
Annually. Combined, you need to earn nearly $70,000 just to cover housing costs. Miami's median household brings in $44,000. The math is impossibly broken for anyone earning median wages or below. So who can afford Miami? Wealthy international buyers using real estate as asset storage. Investors, domestic and foreign, buying properties as income generators. People earning well into 6 figures, often in finance or tech, often transplants. What Miami is losing is the middle. The nurse making $70,000 who realizes she'll never own property here. The teacher earning $55,000 paying half her income to rent with no path to stability. The young professional making $85,000 who wants to start a family but can't afford space for children or the childcare costs that come with them. Miami's brand remains intact globally. Internationally, it's still desirable, still iconic, still attracting capital and attention. But for people who actually live and work there, who depend on local wages rather than remote income or international wealth, it's become functionally unlivable. The irony is complete and painful. Miami markets itself as the American dream for immigrants and transplants, the city of opportunity. But the people who built that dream, service workers, educators, civil servants, small business employees, are being systematically priced out of participating in it. Which brings us to number 1. And if you think Miami's crisis is severe, the number 1 city will surprise you because of what it represents about the breadth and depth of Florida's affordability collapse. Number 1, Pensacola.
Yeah, there it is. Number 1 is Pensacola. Okay. We ain't got to get into that. We already know what time it is. Oh, wow. Okay. Been on for about 30 minutes. Let me see if I got anything else I need to look at because there's nobody in the chat. Everybody's in the clouds. Because people don't want to hear me talk about this. I already know. I know. Yeah. Play this on my phone.
So you weren't going to be able to hear a word that I said. And we've got some important stuff to share in this video. So let's get into it. In this video, we're going to talk about why people are leaving Florida. Why would you move to where you vacation and then want to leave? Or if you're from Florida, why would you want to leave where people vacation? We're going to cover all things, reasons why people want to leave Florida and where are they going? How does that relate to us? I mean, you named it.
Okay, no, I'm looking at the comments. Yeah, it's the usual weather and all that stuff. Okay. Let's see. All right, yeah, the chat is quiet. I don't know what's going on. The chat is quiet. Let me just end this live stream then, because it's very quiet. Let's see. Is there anything I need to see here? I guess we could listen to Nino Brown real quick. He talks about rappers going broke, they falling off, nobody booking them for shows. Let's listen to this.
Let me tell you something. Most of these rappers y'all see on the internet holding up the goddamn money and all that shit with the money, they gonna fall off and go broke in 2026. All these rappers might seem like they getting money. They might show off their foreign cars and expensive jewelry, but they about to be at the goddamn pawn shop trying to figure it out. They gonna be forced to sell all their shit. Just pay close attention. Right now, the music industry is being overly dominated by female rappers. The men in the rap scene are falling off already. What happened to the baby? What happened to Lil Baby? What happened to SG? Even Drake music ain't hot no more. The women done took over, but that's not the main problem in the rap industry right now. Because right now, the big problem in the music industry is these delusional ass rappers asking for these high ass prices for shows. The show promoters, the people that bring the artists to your city, right now they complaining and opting out of booking rappers because they asking for too much money to come to the city. And the promoters are losing money because the artists can't draw a large crowd so they can make the goddamn money back.
Promoters are not making money because people are not going out to party no more. They're making it known. People are not partying like they used to.
See, a club can definitely afford to pay an artist $20,000 or less. But these goddamn rappers be want $50,000 to $100,000 to perform at a goddamn club, little small venue. And in this economy, no local promoter would risk that kind of money just to make their money back. Because I know you don't know the business, but the only way you could book an artist at $50,000 to $100,000 and make your money back is at a stadium. And the only people that could do stadiums right now in this economy is Live Nation. And they not doing that with nobody right now unless you Beyonce, Gunna, Rihanna, or Kendrick, or somebody of that A-list. I'm talking about super A-list category that they know they gonna make their money back. They might even book a WNBA YoungBoy because he got the YN right now and he part of the agenda. But they definitely ain't.
It's funny he say that because he was here in Orlando at the Kia Center and it sold out. So he's not lying about that. Oh man, Nino Brown going in. Let's go.
Doing that with no Boosie or no Young Thug or no Lil Baby type of artist right now. They gotta get it on the go. So here's where these artists gonna have major problems. Rappers depend on show bookers for money. If they don't get booked, they end up broke. And in this horrible economy, ain't nobody got no money to be paying you $100,000 to come mumble on the goddamn mic. A lot of rappers gonna be sitting home on the weekend coming up in just a few weeks from now, 2026. Life gonna humble them. Bills gonna pile up and they gonna be scratching their goddamn head trying to come up with the bread.
You heard it. Bills are gonna pile up, man. Oh my gosh, man. This is getting crazy, man. Let's go.
The game ain't what it used to be no more. The new generation, they got hype, but they don't got longevity. Cause see, the OG rappers from the 90s, they got classic records like Back That Ass Up from Juvenile. That's a classic record. Lil Wayne could stay touring. Jeezy could stay touring. Cause they had classic records that had a movement behind it. They gonna be straight. It's these new TikTok rappers that's gonna fizzle and phase out. Cause right now the promoters are hurting because these new artists are charging $80,000, $100,000. Some of them even charging $150,000 for a show.
Ooh. If they can't get the people to come, people are not coming out. They're not spending money. People are not spending money like they used to. Let's go.
But the promoter can't even recoup half have that goddamn money back. Ask somebody how much it cost to book Pooh Shiesty right now. They gonna teach you a little less. The man been locked up in prison. They were getting a free show in the goddamn Chain Gang. He came out and he want $200,000 just to book him, man. And the promoter ain't even getting half of that shit back. Cause no matter who you is, the tickets ain't selling like that. Cause the fans spending money on credit cards right now to go to shows, and they really thinking, should I?
He said the fans are spending credit cards on going to the show or getting some cash app or whatever. Ooh, dad, this is getting crazy.
I go to that because the music ain't strong enough and the energy not there. The rap industry definitely gonna be exposed in 2026. None of these rappers got the money you think they got, and all the cap in they raps gonna show itself when these promoters stop booking them. Just pay close attention. Just ask somebody from your city when the next time they booking somebody. Well, just ask somebody, man, how much it cost to book this one, book that one. You do the math. These venues only hold.
The question is, what about YouTube? You know, some people pay people to come meet up with them and do live videos and stuff like that. Is that going to be? Is we going to see less of that now? Interesting.
300 to 400 people, man. And they be charging y'all $20 to get in. How they making the money back? The club get the money from the bar, but the dough go to the promoter. You can't make no $50,000, $100,000 back from no goddamn dough with no club holding no 400 to 500 people. 300 people, some of these clubs, 300 people or less. And these rappers charging these people $50,000, $100,000. Man, they getting robbed, man. But now the industry finna rob these rappers. And they already in 360 deal. So the label getting the money off them goddamn screens they got. Now the show money finna get cut. So a lot of them finna be working at Walmart with your ass. Just why? Just pay close attention. It come. Y'all like this video, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to my channel and y'all make sure y'all share this video with somebody. Because 2026, that music industry gonna be exposed. We the business.
Let's listen.
This is a guy who, you know, it says 200 occasion. Meek used to get over $250,000 a show.
DJ Academics.
Your rate right now should be like $60,000. People will book you. You just won't drop your price. That's the problem. Rappers usually don't drop their price. They won't tell their booking agents to drop their price because it's an ego hit. You used to get booked for $250,000, $300,000. You used to get all these type of things. They used to send a jet for you just to get you to the show. The jet was $40,000 that they would take off their whatever because they said you were that hot. When you cool down, that price comes down. And when you get booked for $250,000 for a year, it kind of make you feel away. When you got to get up out your house, you got to go get on a commercial, or they say, "Nah, we don't have no jet for you, so you got to go pay that $20,000, $30,000 your damn self." And then you are still rolling the same entourage, and you have to basically go and you're going to work for 1/10 of what you usually get. Historically, a lot of artists are in denial about that. They don't want to talk about that. While part of what Meek is saying is true, yes, the industry definitely said you're done, 100%. But there's a part of it that you hurt yourself too. You're in denial. You're delusional. The price for you is coming down.
And Twitter just slapped Lil Baby with allegations that's damn near worse to your career than a
I've been saying this for years. The reason rap is dying is because there's way too much ego involved. If you go look at these fucking tickets, they're like $500 for a section, and in the pits, $800. Dude, look up Imagine Music Festival. You can see some of the best EDM artists on planet Earth for legitimately $330 for a multi-day festival. Like, who the fuck is telling Lil Baby he's worth $800? His mom? Dude, a homeless person probably wouldn't even go see him because it's a waste of their fucking time. I'm not even hating on the kid. I don't care about his music. I'm not even hating, but I just don't know anybody personally who would pay $100 if he was in town. They just have yes men around them. The production sucks. They put no effort into the fans. They put no effort into the shows. They put no effort into fucking anything except buying chains. And then they expect people to shell out $800. Nobody feels sorry for these rappers. Like, get fucked.
And these artists are not giving $200 performances. Okay, when you spend $200 for a mid-level ticket, that's like a Beyonce ticket. That's like a Drake ticket. But what are you getting when you go see a Beyonce concert or even a Drake concert to a certain extent? A little less on Drake, but what are you getting when you go see them? You get to see, with Beyonce, you get to see a bunch of costume changes. You get to see her actually live singing. You get to see a crazy ridiculous, extravagant looking stage. You get to see production. You get to see, weird art pieces floating around. You get to see a whole dance team, backup dancers. You get to see all of that for $200. But when you pay $200 to see Lil Baby or to see Kodak Black, what are you gonna get? You're going to get them rapping their songs, walking back and forth on stage. They might jump around for a song or two. They're going to literally have the backtrack in the background playing the full song. It's not just going to be the instrumental. It's going to be the full song. Like somebody literally just plugged their phone in, and you're going to hear the words and everything. And they're going to rap maybe about half the song, let the crowd rap the other half. Like, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with performing like that. It's not the best performance style in the world, but there's nothing wrong with performing like that. But when you perform like that, you can't charge Beyonce prices, bruh. You can't charge Drake prices. When Drake got, floating things, and he's got the statue of Virgil throwing the airplane, and he's got his set, this huge stage with a screen. He's got a hologram Drake. If you're going to charge these type of prices, I expect you to give me that type of show.
I have to agree with him on that. I have to agree. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Shout out to Nina Brown. Wow. Well, that's pretty much about that, y'all. Changes must happen. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I expected to be quiet. I guess that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, let's see. Yeah, that's it. Peace.